for the most part, it's younger. And I think it's continued. I mean, obviously, like any other community, I mean, they've pushed hard to recruit more and put more people through. So like we have a lot more people applying, right, than ever. And which means the class sizes are getting bigger, but what means obviously more people are, graduating, but what's staying true is the percentage of failure, right? So it's like, yeah, you put more people through and we're graduating more, but like what's staying true is 80% of the people, 85% of the people that try out are going to wash out, right? Like, so like, yeah, they're like, oh my gosh, that Hill Week had 60 guys. And it's like, my Hill Week only had 13 or something like that. It's like, yeah, but they also started with 360 or whatever it is. And it's like, you started with 50. It's like, it works out ultimately with the math. And the one thing that I've kind of heard, talking to some guys that are still out there at the training command is like, a few years ago, there was still always like, I'd say like a little bit of a good old boy where it's like, there was peer-to-peer evals and guys would be like, well, hey, listen, you're failing every run, but like the guys like you and we see that you're not going to quit. Right. And they're not to push the guy along, but they're like, or a guy that didn't do as well on swims or stuff like that, but he always had that personality and things like that. And so like, they wouldn't let him make it through, but they would be like, hey, they would like I had a kid that wasn't a good swimmer. And Zach and I, probably one of my worst swims ever was this little kid. I say little kid. I mean, he was just because he was shorter than me, but we were both in Smurf crew, funny enough. So I'm 5'10". He was like 5'3", 5'4". And so like carrying the boat and I'm looking at him like, dude, come on, this is not fun. Like, he's just like holding, but he wasn't a good swimmer. And so the instructors were like, hey man, this kid has to pass. Like you're going to make this kid pass. And like, so Zach and I hooked him up and we're like throwing him, like swimming up beside him, taking him up, throwing him for a 2-mile ocean swim. And like, I got done that swim and we barely passed. And I was like, just on exhaustion. I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank God that's over. That was the hardest swim I ever did in buds, but like he made it through first phase. We were already post Hell Week. But he ended up failing, one of the other, treads in second phase. So it kind of sucked, but never made it to the team, but good guy. Right. From what I'm hearing from guys now, like there's none of that now. They're not doing peer evals anymore. It's legitimately, you don't make the time, too bad. And they're just like, boom. And so it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think that in a good way, right, that means the standard's being held, right? But in a bad way, you miss out on a guy that potentially is going to be a good dude and be a good operator and someone you want to be in combat with, for a guy that potentially, right? Yeah, he's great at PT, but his personality won't fit the teams, and he's just going to be an absolute turd. Like, yeah, he can crush the PRT and he can do all these like pull-ups and push-ups and he's a CrossFit, guru or whatever. But it's like, when it comes down to operating, he's a douche, and it's like, so.
I've never met anybody like that. That's never happened.
Those guys never sneak through the cracks.
Yeah. They never.
Yeah. Man, I got to be honest, man. You bring up a whole lot of good points that could take me a whole bunch of different ways, and I think you're right. It's a delicate balance. There's an art and a science to it, right? And it's, would I rather have somebody be so good at PT that they beat me up at the mountain, but they're incompetent when it comes to, they're just mediocre when it comes to doing their job? Or would I rather have somebody that's phenomenal at their job, but it's going to take us double the time to get up there? Like, it's almost one of those MET-TC mission environment type things, like, but you're right. There has been a ton of people, and I'm Smurf guy too. I'm 5'4", so those swims crushed me. I mean, demolished me. but I was almost not a controller because of swimming. And you see it across the board. And I'm by no means saying I'm a good controller, but like there's a lot of dudes that were lost or cut because of missing a swim by 2 seconds, or missing a eval for pull-ups by 1 or 2 pull-ups. And you're like, man, that guy, because he's a phenomenal team player, just great characteristics, and I think I know a lot of the services now are doing the reality is we're scouting better, recruiting better, we're developing better, we're training and assessing better now. So a lot of these folks that are coming in are definitely way better than I ever was, because all I ever did was did some underwaters, did some running and some cows to train. I didn't know what rucking was or anything like that. So there's a lot better training and smarter training now. That's interesting that they're not doing the peer evals now. But you guys have psychs, or at least now they have psychs on deck that are providing assessments, because I know we do that.
Yeah. So like I said, it's something new that I'd heard. And I mean, I haven't been out there to confirm or whatever, but that's just something that I'd heard, that they were getting away from that and legitimately, like, 2205. Oh, sorry. You didn't make the cut. See ya. And it's like, that's your third fail.